Thank you, Scott, and welcome everyone, morning, noon, and night, wherever you are. Can I have a show of quick hands? Can you hear the audio okay? Yes means your hand goes up. Okay. If you do not hear the audio okay, we don't know if it's on your end or our end, but please speak up if there's a problem. So today's session, 3 reasons your organization needs to know the new ISO 9000, 9001, 2015 standard is coming your way. This is obviously a revision to the 2008 standard, and if you are not familiar with the standards at all, I'm going to have a introduction, a little bit of history, because the history has something to do with the current changes, and we'll discuss how those changes could impact you. I would like to know right off the bat, as a poll here, does your organization have a documented quality management system right now? That means you have a well-defined quality management system where people know the rules and responsibilities. So this is your practice at doing the first poll. So if you can please fill out the yes, no, not sure. By the way, in my world, a not sure means a no. So I'm going to add those together because the whole point of the quality management system is to understand the roles and responsibilities. So if you don't know it and you're in that company, then they get a big ding there. So pretty much everybody. And there's a part 2 to this question, as always with our polls. Part 2, is your management system compliant to ISO 9000, 2008? And you notice I said compliant, not necessarily certified. There's 2 components to being compliant. One is you got compliant and you're comfortable with that, or you're compliant and you get registered by a third party. So about 2/3. Okay, good. So we're dealing with the majority of the folks that have had some understanding and some responsibility implementing quality management system and ISO. Now, one quick show of hands. How many of you are in a service organization and not a goods organization? Okay, only 3 folks. So I don't want you to feel left out because one of the changes in the standard this year is related to services. So I want to make sure you stick around here. So a little bit about us. We were founded by Dr. Joseph Duran. Many of you may not remember who he was. He's the father of quality, as Dr. Deming was referred to. He was the one who named the Pareto principle after Wilfredo Pareto, the 80-20 rule. He founded our organization in 1976, 77, and actually 77, and I've been there 28 years. We are recognized globally. That means people would usually recognize them Duran Institute, Duran Global. We are about quality, methods, techniques, and strategies for improving business performance. We do work extensively with clients around the world. We provide assessment, benchmarking, coaching, and training and certification. And someone asked me really what we care about. We care about business results and stakeholder satisfaction, but we do that through delighting customers with superior products and services in a more positive way. And we like to think of ourselves as not cost cutters, but quality improvers. We're trying to continually advance. Makes it very difficult 7 years after the passing of Dr. Duran, but we keep pushing ahead. Most recently, the Duran textbooks moved from the traditional Duran Quality Handbook to Performance Excellence Handbook, a leadership book called Quality Essentials, college textbook, and precursor to the Certified Quality Engineering exam, Duran's Quality Management Analysis, and a book on Six Sigma Breakthrough and Beyond. Also, we just recently released our new performance app. It's a free app. We call it a performance app because it's got all the things you need to remind yourself what it is you do every day or need to do. It's got some great features on it. You can get taped versions of these webinars. You can have a dictionary we call Qualipedia. You can have free PowerPoints, everything accessible right at your fingertips. So there's my selling point for today, but it is free, and take a look at it on any Android system or Apple system. So please take a look at it. So today's agenda, and this slide didn't come out the way I wanted it, but I'm going to take you a little walk through history and differences of the new standard and why these three reasons are important. And the three reasons are not stated here. These are the three agenda items. One is we'll go through the history. Two, why is important? And that's where the 3 points come in. And how you should think about using the standard in your industry or going to the next level of standard that you have. I do want to kind of define right up front here. The International Standards Organization is a body that doesn't just embody the quality management standard of ISO 9000. It actually is the international standard body that manages all the standards country to country, industry to industry. And so the designation of ISO 9000 just happens to be the one that was for quality systems. It was preceded by our old military standard, MIL Standard Q9858, which was used between military contractors and the military to assure that the product government was buying was meeting requirements. And if you were in Europe or UK, they had BS 5750. Today, 5750 and ISO 9000 are one and the same. By the time the mid-'80s came along, we were embroiled in a kind of the Americas and Europe's embroiled in a competitive challenge with the quality of goods and services, and that competitive challenge was being beat back by implementing various quality methods. And those quality methods started to make their way into many organizations around the world, and particularly very large organizations around the world. And, sorry about that, and some of them, these larger companies, particularly the automotive and the defense industries, were starting to put requirements on many, many suppliers. So if you were a supplier to Ford, you had the Ford Q1 audit. If you were to GM, you had the GM audit. If you were to aerospace, you had their version. So technically, a supplier to aerospace and defense could have had 4 or 5 different quality systems they were needed to comply with. By the mid-'80s, it was becoming a very difficult thing to do, particularly if you're a small contractor. So ISO Standards Organization embarked upon the discovery and then the definition and delivery of the ISO 9000 standards. So the first one, released in 1987, introduced the adoption of ISO quality management system, and it provided a backdrop for a basic system that could eliminate all these third-party audits if everyone would move to this one system. And from the mid-'80s until right up until 2014, that standard has been growing. It changed in 1994, and again in 2000, and then again in 2008. The system, as is a quality management system, is trying to maintain viability in the organization to provide its value. So about every 7 years, the International Standards Organization gets the 82 countries and members together, and they talk about changes. And so the 2015, 7 years after 2008, has now just been released, and everybody will have 3 years to comply with the new standard if you want to get registration. One thing to keep in mind over this period, it moved from a very product quality orientation, product quality control, quality assurance, using preventive actions, to, by the time 2008 came along, trying to incorporate more process, more outside of production, more available for services, and also to integrate with other standards like ISO 14001 environmental standards. You could be an organization with multiple different standards, but they all have similar formats. So the 2008 was to try and clarify and make it more consistent with other standards. Here we are in 2015, and they've jumped ahead and made some other changes that I'm going to point out and that I really and I believe is the reason why I state Three reasons why you guys should think about it. But let's talk about why ISO, why a quality system in the typical business. So if we look at our company, our organization, getting a series of inputs, we then take those inputs, we process them, and we deliver outputs. And so if we're a manufacturing company, we take raw material, specifications, regulatory requirements, we process it, and we deliver goods and the output. For a service company, we take information, customer requirements, supplied information, we process it, and we provide outputs. Obviously, in a very simplistic fashion, that is a business. Now, a quality management system is in place to assure the inputs to the processors are accurate and reliable, that the processors process those inputs effectively, repeatably, and consistently so that it produces the outputs that customers and stakeholders want. Stakeholders being those responsible for the business, those who are impacted by the business, versus the customers who receive the physical good or output, or the service company. And if we were to go beyond this simple three-block diagram, that simple business might look like this. We need to create a plan so that we could run our business. And that plan usually takes information from technology, stakeholders, regulatory organizations, competition, customer history, customer trends, and we develop a vision and a plan, what we'll call a strategic plan. And that strategic plan then must be deployed through the organization. Now, we do that in a couple of ways. One is we deploy through our processes, which are the area inside my little circle here. And so I'm going to try and get a little pencil here. So in this area here, those are our processes, and we deploy in this direction. Now, in order for us to make sure those are operating well, we have our employees, our human resource system, our talent management, making sure people are available, doing the right things. And up here, we have our quality management system to assure quality planning that we designed to meet these requirements, quality improvement, that over time we always continue to improve, and quality control to make sure that these processes are always in line so that the outputs gain results and meet stakeholders and customers' needs. Now, the ISO quality system is really focused on this area here. And in particular, the quality control, mainly a little bit of quality improvement and some of quality planning. But the emphasis really was supposed to be on quality control, quality assurance. From the original standard in 1987 until now, it's starting to evolve to encompass more of the systems of management quality, to go beyond just the operational process control, but into all process control, as well as making sure there's training and education to people to maintain that control, to make sure that the quality management system is vibrant and alive and effective and efficient, as well as make sure that all these stakeholders are having the needs met and not just shipping product or delivering services are not capable. So a typical business might look like this, and the ISO standard was to fulfill a portion of this initially. Now, whether you use ISO 9000 or something like it, quality management system is essential to assure the vibrancy and delivery of products and goods to services. There's very few organizations that can live without some kind of quality management system because we just have to always assure our customers that we're doing more than just designing and delivering products. Now, if we were to look at quality control deeper, the most important aspect of a quality management system and the original ISO 9000 system is to make sure that we understand what is critical to quality based on our stakeholders and their understanding, and make sure that we move it through the system. We get a baseline or targeted performance. We know what that is. We then monitor that baseline through various metrics, in process, end of process. We try to compare those to the targets, and if there's an issue, take action. So synonymous with your ISO 9000 system, quality control and quality assurance assure that your basic fundamental process is repeatable and compliant, and that the people doing the job actually understand this entire process. In the event of a corrective action or a complaint, it also would jump into a corrective action mode, which usually requires the taking of action here on an ongoing basis. So ISO 9000, a little deeper, is all about repeatability and compliant processes. Now, with every good business system and quality management system, an organization must have some kind of self-audit and a well-understood system so that it operates. We use this picture to describe the 7 essential elements of a good audit. First of all, number 1, that is the organization strategically aligned and capable of delivering its objectives? Does it have an effective and efficient quality management system? Does the organization and the people in it understand measurement analysis capability so that it is not just collecting data, but also using the data, developing information, and then driving the business decisions so that the efficiency of our processes are being met? Now, we also want to know how well engaged the employees are, because the employees engaged in these processes will ultimately create a culture which are the habits and beliefs focused on quality or not focused on quality. We also have to understand our supply chain and our suppliers, and most importantly, is it all getting us the results that we need? And so this total assessment, we call it our organizational health check, is essential to making sure the quality management system and the business system survives. But what you notice here is that quality management system is a component of a business management system. Therefore, ISO 9000 is not a total system. It is a component of it, and an important component of it to make sure that we do the things we need to do. Why is this important, and why am I telling you this? Because in the new standard, ISO 9001-2015, the standard is trying to go beyond quality management and more into these other areas which have known been important links to assuring that we get the results we want. So, for instance, there's more emphasis on strategy and alignment, similarly to the Baldrige-like awards. There is less emphasis on a quality or documented quality manual, more emphasis on the information you need to manage your organization. There is no, per se, management review by lower level people. They want to see the strategies deployed. So it's moving to a more total business model, but it's not there yet, and it may never get there yet. And so keep in mind it's extending beyond the quality management system that it was known for. Now, we like you to think about ISO 9000 and the quality management system in this way. Over time, every organization is trying to improve quality, manage quality. And if we were to measure our performance, particularly our performance when we begin, if we were perfect, we would be right along this line. But since we're not perfect, we tend to begin operations and we begin moving in a very zone of quality, but not very good. We still have some waste and cost of poor quality. But nonetheless, we plan to do our best. At times we have this spike and we beat it down. The traditional quality control system is one that creates this target and maintains this target through inspection, compliance, corrective action, procedures, and essentially the core element of ISO 9000. But most of you also know that if we maintain this performance without trying to drive out this waste, we will not get better. Also, if we don't have a system to attack these causes of sporadic spikes and the cause of that waste, we're not going to get anywhere. So a good business management system has an element of quality management that is used to drive improvement of performance. The methods of Lean, Six Sigma, 6S, root cause analysis, PDCA, those are things that we use on a very focused improvement way to improve this performance by driving out the waste to a new level. And we get to this new level of performance down here, and we then can go on happily. But as we improve, we also learn about the operations, learn about capabilities, and we feed that information back to the planners. And the planners are those people in design of product, design of service, that help us create new levels of performance. The Durand trilogy of quality planning, control, and quality improvement are essentially the heart of a good quality management system. Now, in order to make sure you plan, control, and improve, your organization also needs to assure it's doing all those things. So it's not enough just to create new designs and services and products. It's not enough to control them. It's not enough to improve them. It's to assure you actually keep doing that. How many times I get a call or asked by a company, we used to do that, but we stopped doing it. Why did you stop doing it? Because something broke down in the system where we weren't assuring it stays alive. ISO 9000 and an effective quality management system make sure that you stay alive and compliant. It's very effective at making sure you audit what you say you're going to do over here. And it forces you to have a system in place to do it. Now, ISO is not a total quality system. I'm saying that again because there are people who think that everything lives by the sword, and it's not the case. Matter of fact, over time, it is moving in that direction. So initially when we began, there was a product focus. By the way, the military standard 9858 and the British system standard was intended to make sure the product only meets requirements. If you think about today, your customers want to make sure not just the product, but the processes in your organization do. So ISO 9000 has been moving in this direction, but it is not yet at this direction, as is Baldrige or as is a total operational excellence system that you may have created. But it's getting there. And my guess is by 2022, the next revision, it'll be a lot closer than we are today. So by a show of hands, how many of you feel that your current quality management system is on the right track, moving from product to process and process to enterprise? A raise of hands means we are on the right track. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you feel that our system is just product focused? And how many of you feel that your system is much better than the ISO and we're up here enterprise focused? Okay, relative few. And those of you who didn't raise your hands, you're probably somewhere in the middle. So, effective quality management system is essential to assure your customers you're doing something right. There is no requirement in an effective quality management system to proliferate procedures and documentation. There is a necessity to make sure people know what they're doing and how they do it. Up until now, the ISO 9001 standards have been about show me your quality manual and show me your procedures. One of the best new things about ISO 9015 is that it does not require a documented quality manual. It requires proof of information to run your system and run your organization. So if we were to look at the standards of, or I should say the standard currently on the right-hand side, and then look on the left-hand side, they've actually, in purpose, picked 10 areas instead of 8 and simplified some of those areas, as in reducing the quality manual and a few other really important changes. Now, I'm going to keep this slide here, and I'm going to highlight some of the changes that are important to you in your business. Number one, the definitions and terminology is trying to expand and extend to service industries. The new draft makes more applicable to service industries, and the term product is now replaced with products and services. For many years, the standard and most business acumen used the General Accounting Office definition of a product. I'm sorry, definition of a good. A good is a product and service. But no matter how hard you try to use the word good with a service company, they say we don't produce goods. So the ISO Technical Committee decided to replace the word product with product and services so that it's more applicable in the terminology. So in terms of scope, it's better terminology for non-goods companies, and at the same time, it maintains it for goods companies. The second one is this normative reference. Normative reference basically says, you know, what is the context that we're using this, and you'll see that in item number 4. But basically, 2, 3, and 4 is all about, are you applying a stakeholder approach using stakeholder relationship management, understanding the organization and its context, and understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties as it relates to the context? Now, what does that mean? It means, can you demonstrate to me that your quality system is based on you meeting the needs of your stakeholders, and does it do that? So on one hand, it wants a clearer understanding of voice of the customer, once again, as I said, moving into quality of design, and proof that your customer is meeting, or you are meeting your customer requirements. So there's clear definitions of who a customer is, and it's larger than that. They're using the term stakeholder. This requires that organizations determine the issues and requirements that can impact your quality management system or your quality, and use those inputs when managing your system. So for instance, what input is driving your business system to change, and is that affecting your quality management system? So if you say that safety is very important as a critical to quality characteristic, then you have to show me how your safety is incorporated into your structure. If risk is important, then you got to put it in context. And now SRM, as they're calling it, stakeholder relationship management, goes beyond CRM in their opinion, but in effect, it wants to prove that there is a clear understanding between all stakeholders, customers, suppliers, partners, authorities, regulators, and make sure they are aligned with your system. Second part of this, or third part I should say, is process approach further defined. So here we have a much better, clear understanding of process approach to things versus just product. The new draft does it more explicitly than Section 4.4 did. Now organizations need to define the inputs and expected outputs of process. I use that first graph of this slide, input, process, output. Basically, it wants a clearer picture of a SIPOC for key processes. So inputs, process, output. One is it's visually easier to understand inputs and outputs, and two, it's going to make sure you reduce the amount of words to describe what that is. But in any case, you're still left with defining what it is, what are the indicators, and assign responsibility to that. So it's essentially, you know, going from tell me what a procedure is to show me your inputs and outputs and how that process works. There is a new area for the standard, it's focusing on risk. And essentially, one could say that an organization that is trying to deliver high-quality goods and services has all kinds of risks throughout the organization. The risk of not delivering safe product, the risk of liability, the risk of someone getting hurt in the office or factory, the risk associated with not meeting customer requirements. And historically, the context of risk was based and built into a critical to quality element. But in this new draft, there's a much greater emphasis on the adoption of risk-based approaches. It requires an understanding of a risk assessment and the processes used to do that risk assessment. Essentially, it's asking you to show me how your organization identifies potential risk and how you address those risks and take actions when those risks actually occur. This is new, and it might not sound like the quality management people know what they're doing about this, but they should, and we do, because the risk of having an unsafe product, the risk of having a product not meeting customer requirement is huge in terms of liability and potential warranty or potential life and failure. So the standard, one of the newest items in there, is the clear understanding of how you manage risk in your organization. By show of hands, how many of you have a risk management system that is clearly documenting what the risks are that your organization must monitor? And if it's a few, I would not be surprised, because risk management was tended to be done by finance or safety or the safety, health, and environment group, and now it's extending beyond that. I think this is a good addition to the standard. It's going to start to get people off the word quality per se, just say what are the risks. And the risks are not meeting customer needs, not meeting liability, not meeting regulatory. One of my favorites in here, and we have taught clients for all the years I've been here, is you don't have to have a lot of documentation to have a good quality management system. What you need to have is a good management system that people understand. But a lot of auditors translated that to show me your documents, show me your procedures. And so the history of this has been an organization with a lot of paper usually has a weak quality management system, and an organization with a lot of information but not enough paper has got a strong management system. So the terms documents and records in the new standard are basically being replaced by providing information. And how do you get that information? Where's the documented information? So if you have metrics, KPIs, reports, in-process metrics, all you have to do is reference them and show this is what is driving where we're going. And the importance of that is it's business-like. We tend to run our business that way. We don't document every transaction we have in the office. We have to rely on information and past practice and process to do it. So there's much more flexibility, and there is no longer a mandatory requirement to have a quality manual. Although we would still recommend something that you can hand to your customers and employees, you don't need a 500-page book. A little bit more responsibility on management. It defines some management responsibilities versus just management review. Management responsibility and commitment. So it's trying to show that quality is an important characteristic along with profit and cost. There is an extension of the management review which asks the question, how does your quality management system help support the strategic direction of the organization? And another way to look at that is, how is the strategic deployment changing or driving your quality management system? So although the changes were extensive, the extensiveness comes in really trying to eliminate some of the vagueness and some of the deficiencies associated with the ISO standard. Now, I'd like to look at this list one more time here. historically, when you wrote down and documented what it was important to your customers and your quality system, there was a lot of interpretation around what an auditor or any auditor, whether it's your own auditor or an external auditor, can assume. And there was a lot of variability in those assumptions. So if you were ever walking into an organization and you see scrap, rework, waste, customer complaints, and a certified ISO certificate on the wall, you kind of wonder, how does that happen? And it happens because there's a lot of variation in past systems and past clauses. In this document, they have really tried to narrow definitions so they're less open to interpretations. And so in normative references and terms and definitions, you're going to find, I remember people arguing over the word shall and will. And, what does shall mean? What does will mean? And let's face it, not many people know the difference. Are you doing it or not doing it? And so the question is, are you doing it or not doing it? So they've removed variation. This is really important because by removing variation, you're going to see more people hopefully fail, or more importantly, people that get a certificate truly deserve the certificate. And I think that is probably the second most important aspect of this system, one being the quality manual being not necessary, risk being added, and this one. And I think that's a good thing. So as you think about ISO 9000 or quality management system, so if you don't have one and you want to create one, as we see many hospitals starting to do, the new standard can be sold as something fresh and new because it does look different and it is more business-like. If you are currently holding a certificate for 2008, you have 3 years to comply with the new standard to remain registered and certified. And depending on who your auditor is, they will probably throw at you a lot of information about what you need to do. And if you're a company that has a quality management system and wants to make sure your quality management system includes the current ISO 9000 editions, compare this one to yours, and more than likely, you can probably benefit by changing some of your quality system to match. So my 3 key points that I wanted to make in our presentation today. One was, the reason why you need ISO 9000 is that every organization needs to prove to its customers the service and products it delivers meet the requirements. Now, we go to many companies around the globe, and in very few instances, large suppliers and customer relationships rely on your own gut feeling that you have a quality system in place. So the ISO 9000 registration and certification is third-party proof you have something I want. And if your customers are requiring you to be registered, regardless of how good your product quality is or service delivery is, they want proof. And so you need to provide it. And the standard is one way to prove that. And they are not asking you if your entire organization is perfect. It's just saying, show me that you have a system, so I ask that you have some credibility that your system is actually going to benefit me. The second reason why I think it's important is that this model is actually a better model than the past. Joanne Institute and myself, we used to get criticized because we would make statements about the ISO 9000 system, when in fact a quality management system is what we wrote about and Dr. Duran wrote about, the Quality Management Handbook. So we would never be against the standard. What we were against is anyone telling a company what it needs to do to deliver its product, services, and make essentially a profit. Excuse me. So what we were against also was variation in auditors. We want to have a very solid audit process so that people who truly do get a certificate deserve it. And this standard actually seems to be moving in that direction. Third, With this new emphasis on risk, it might give us the link that quality needs to get finance and management to start to take the system more seriously. First of all, transparency is in vogue, and transparency between customers and suppliers is necessary, and the more information you share, the better it is. So the more understanding you have about the risks in your organization and make it part of your system, the greater chance you are going to minimize risk, mitigate risk if it happens. There are so many product liabilities out there today, information liabilities, hacking that's going on. We even see that automatic car systems can be hacked to where someone can apply the brakes on your car. Well, these are risks that we never had before. So the emphasis on risk here is really important, and it's going to force people to ask the question. And it's basically doing a PFMEA, a process failure mode effect analysis on all processes to make sure there's no inherent risk. And when you do that, you'll start to realize the holes that you have in the organization. These are the 3 reasons why every organization should be thinking about ISO 9000 2015. Now, you don't have to take my word for it that ISO 9000 is not a total business model. But you could take the word from one of the leaders of the ISO technical committee that wrote them. This gentleman, Robert Gutzik, has a very strong stance. And the stance is very important for you quality practitioners to relate. Anybody who supports the notion has obviously never run a business. That ISO 9000 is an entire business system. They may have been involved in one, perhaps served in higher echelons of management, but they probably never held the reins of an entire organization. His point here is don't sell this standard or any other quality management system as the end-all to every problem. An organization needs environmental standards, quality standards, safety standards, just to function and keep track of itself. So we want you to know the credibility comes right out of the standards itself. So if your auditor tells you that, relate back to this slide or have him call me, and I'll remind him of John's comment right out of the technical committee. So, but that doesn't mean your quality management system doesn't have tentacles that go to all different parts of the organization. For instance, if you have a quality improvement program, Lean and Six Sigma, there's a pretty good chance you're using that to drive out costs, not just in production, but in service areas, in finance areas, in HR. If you're implementing a transformation plan that does that, that's not necessarily in your quality management system, but in the quality management system, it says we have a quality improvement program. We have a corrective action program, and that's what you use. But it's not going to cover every facet. Not every decision is made by a quality improvement team or a lean project or a lean event. So keep that in mind. I would like to, before I go to this last slide, I have a poll here for you folks. And that's not it. Okay. I have 2 questions for you, sorry. Tell me about your current management. Do you have a lot of documents? For some reason, we answered that question. Here we go. I got it. Somebody put in 1 and it showed everything. Okay, so my current quality management system consists of many documents and has little support from leadership. So by saying yes, you're complying there. So one thing you might feel good about is you can reduce your documents, particularly the system manual, and it has little support probably because it's not been credible, and we're going to try to cure that with the new standard here. And lastly, here we go. Lastly, there's 2 parts here. One is if you want follow-up and more information on this, besides your regulatory agency that's auditing you, you're welcome to contact us. But I'd also like to see, and I'd like everyone else to see here, Do you have any suggestions for additional webinars, one related to ISO 9000 and its deployment, or anything else that you have? We'd love to see you write that into the box that you have in front of you, and we'll see what people say. I apologize for being a little tripping on these last couple slides, but my slide was a little bit slow in editing here. So if you'd like follow-up from Duran, please tell us. And if you would like particular topics, please tell us. Oh, that was a very good one, auditing for the new standard. Another good part of that is teaching the auditors how to audit to the new standard. Cost of quality of service in consulting organizations. Good. So we really would like folks to do that. Fill that in. And as always, we want to be able to give away something on our call. So for folks sticking around for the 50 minutes, I would like to have my staff issue 2 Quality Essential Leadership books. And for our non-English speaking folks, 1 Spanish Quality Handbook. And let's see, if anybody wants a Chinese version of the handbook and 1 English version of the handbook. So I would like you guys to stick around here till I flip it back to Scott, and he will tell you how you can win those. Okay? And I'd like to say thank you to all of you for participating. And Scott, I'll turn it back to you. Oh, I see a question.
Well, and Joe, we do have a question coming in from Rodrigo. Do you know if there is a version of ISO 9000 2015 available for academic purposes?
Meaning, do you not have to pay for it? The answer is you'll be able to find it very easily and very quickly. There is, they make money off of selling the standard. So in order to get a copy, you have to pay for it. However, I believe because ASQ or the National Institute of Standards and Technology will provide those at a very low cost electronically for a non-for-profit. So you should go to the NIST site or the ASQ site and see that. Legally, we can't, reproduce them. I had to buy one ourselves. And yes, this presentation and all our presentations will be available for download, including all my verbal errors as well. Any other questions?
Well, let me add, Joe, that if you download the Duran Global Quality Essentials app, which is available in the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, the webinars automatically appear, the recorded webinars automatically appear in that app. There's a whole webinar section in there, and so you have access to all of the archived webinars. Of course, you can go to the website and go to webinars and click archived, and you'll see them there as well, but it's a whole lot easier just to play them on your tablet or on your phone. That's a great way to get them. So if you haven't downloaded the app, we encourage you to do so. The staff will be just randomly selecting 2 names at the conclusion of the webinar for the books, and if you're one of those lucky 2, then you're likely to get an email. Not likely, you will get an email from Tina letting you know that you have won one of the books, and we'll do that at the conclusion of this as well. And so with that, a little bit of final housekeeping. Our next webinar is only a couple weeks away on Wednesday, October 14th. Joe will be back to talk about the 5 ways to use National Performance Awards to drive excellence. And a lot of talk about how we actually use Malcolm Baldrige and other similar awards to actually drive business performance improvement in our organizations, and Joe will tell you how to do that. You can go to the website, duran.com, go to webinars, and you will see the registration link, and you can get in on that one as well.